What's up, everybody? I am Eric. This is Gary. Today we are smoking a special stick. It's the frog juice from Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. We're talking about Joe Girardi. Is he a good manager? Vaccine passports. What's all the hubbub about? And are they really even ethical? And amnesia butt. All that and more. This is Cedar Culture.
Kick back and relax, it's time to shoot the shit. Hanging out with the broskies, Gary and Eric. Let the ash go long and the convo stay pure. That's Cedar Culture. That's Cedar Culture. That's Cedar Culture.
Let's bundle these leaves and burn them and suck on them.
Here we are.
Dude, I am so excited. I'm always excited for a Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust stick, but again, it's beautiful weather. Thursday, we're in the smoke shack.
So this one, frog juice, is completely new to me.
Yeah.
Like even in concept.
Right.
So I didn't even look anything up.
I'm
Before
glad
this
you didn't.
episode.
And
Yeah. Have you?
Only just to give some stats on like the name and why, that kind of stuff.
So it was a
flavor
limited. Do you
profiles.
know? Did they do it for a specific shop or anything?
Yes, Riverside Cigar Shop Lounge in Jeffersonville, Indiana. It's an exclusive blend, and apparently for, I don't know what size shop it is, but they've done a ton of collaborations with other people.
That must be a big shop.
Yeah, I want to check it out. Like, it's made me really want to dive
Go to
deep.
Indiana.
I'm ready. But so it was released in 2020, and it was supposed to come out during an event near the Kentucky Derby.
Okay.
So frog juice is slang for the dope they give horses for performance-enhancing steroids.
Really?
Right. So he kind of like play on words.
Huh, I wonder why. That's
I guess
cool.
maybe it's green. I don't know.
It's interesting, and I wonder if that's if it's allowed.
A known slang?
Or like, is it allowed? Like, it's yeah, we give our horses. frog
No,
juice.
I believe it's illegal.
Okay.
I believe it's an illegal like substance. But it's a 5x52 soft box press. I mean, just beautiful brown. Like if you
It
didn't
is
tell me, like
beautiful.
I would have thought it was Maduro, but it's an Ecuadorian Habano wrapper. It is a Nicaraguan shade-grown binder and a Dominican and Nicaraguan filler. But again, just really cool. It's made out of the same factory they make the Miquierda, which we both love.
I have in my head, because it's called frog juice, and then you said, you're like, I don't know, maybe that stuff's green.
Right.
As I'm taking
want
a
it to
little
be
dry
green.
draw, I'm like, oh, it tastes like Ecto Cooler. Obviously, it doesn't taste anything like Ecto Cooler, but like
I can see
it's
that.
in
There's
my
almost
head.
a citrusy
There
type
is
thing.
something there, though. There's something there.
So I love the other thing. I love when wrappers are either ridiculously like ornate or ridiculously simple, and this just falls onto a stencil where it says frog juice in all caps. It's got the DTT, the band. What did I say?
The wrapper.
The wrapper. I'm sorry, the band. But
I like it when my rappers collaborate with J-Lo and Ashanti in the 90s.
J-Lo and A-Rod broke up, dude. Like I'm bummed.
I know, I brought that up like 7 episodes ago.
I know, but it's still, but it's official now. It's
And,
sad.
dude, and what's great.
Is he still gonna buy the Mets?
No, so he bought a basketball team instead. Timberwolves, I think.
Yeah.
And one of like the young hot prospects for that basketball team was asked in an interview, like, "What do you think now that A-Rod like bought the team?" He goes, "Who's Alex Rodriguez?"
How? Oh man.
I love that. I love that because A-Rod's just known for his ego.
And, you know, as we talked about probably 7 episodes ago, the dude made more as an investor than he ever did, like, as a player, which is crazy.
We were talking about that on the radio this morning, actually. Just how they're like, as insufferable as A-Rod was as a baseball player with his arrogance, they're like, you can watch him on Shark Tank, he's even worse because he's just like, you know. I mean, he, made hundreds of millions of dollars or whatever it was playing baseball. You throw that into the business arena with some good people around you, you're going to be successful. Mm-hmm. And then, but then, of course, he puffs his chest out as this amazing entrepreneur. Maybe he is. I don't know. It was just a funny anecdote that some other people kind of point out. On that note, though,
I love that we get from frog juice to A-Rod. We're like...
Well, actually, on A-Rod, I actually wanted to talk to you a little bit about Joe Girardi. Anyway,
Yeah.
Randomly. So, you don't watch a ton of baseball, right? I don't watch a ton of baseball. Are you?
I've been trying now that I actually have a bar and like some nice TVs. Like I watched the Phillies and the Mets yesterday.
Okay. So like, in my understanding, and I don't watch a lot of I don't watch much baseball at all. When I do, it's kind of just the Phillies. Like I'm not looking at other teams. So when Joe Girardi came to be the GM, I was really excited, just because of the lore, and you know he's won some World Series and and all that. But now that he's here, I'm starting to wonder why people like the guy, because he's not doing much for the Phillies right now.
No, and he came at a tough time. Like he came, last season was like kind of a wash.
He did, and so people kind of gave him some slack.
The benefit of the doubt.
But this year, it's interesting. What's interesting is that the Phillies bats aren't hitting that great right now. General consensus on that though is like they're professional hitters. They'll get out of their little funk, and they'll figure it out. Man. But what's alarming in regards to like the coaching is where the Phillies are messing up, like on the base path or errors on the field. Those things feel like things that are like coachable. Like they're the things that come out in practice that you work on. Like baseball.
Not almost like a to lack of a better
more
skill
situational
set, but like you can work on it. Like
it's more
obviously you be a better hitter
and repetitions, right? And of course that's the case with hitting too, but for the most part, a lot of them have their own hitting coaches now, and they're adjusting their swing in the off season, and it is what it is, and then they'll have their slumps and peaks throughout the season. But fielding a ground ball, that's just like repetitions. That's knocking the rust off. That's practice.
Yeah, take
so
some
they're
grounders.
Just making some really big mistakes in the field and on the base path, and it's you kind of point to the coach for that.
Yeah, and the coach should take the slack for that. And I was always a Girardi fan. I mean, obviously, I'm a diehard Yankee fan, and I told my in-laws when he got
Look
here.
at the talent he had around him, though, and then you're like, well, maybe that's where it came from.
He did have a lot of talent. And now that he's gone and, like, Aaron Boone takes his place with the Yankees, right, you kind of start to say, like, is it the provenance around him? Is it the skill set around him?
Yeah.
Because really, how much coaching are you really doing when you're at that level?
Well, you're not, and that's
where's your where's your responsibility?
And that's why I don't feel like it's the coach's fault. Like if they're hitting poorly, it's in the game. Like he's not calling hitting plays necessarily. Like
try to get a homer.
Yeah, right. but things like when you should steal or not steal.
Right.
That's the coach.
Tactics. That's
that's another thing. Like he's given. We just signed a catcher. He's supposed to be like the best catcher in the big leagues. Just signed him to a big deal. Right. It was a big deal. He's sat out 25% of the games so far. Right. And so I get you rest your catchers like you have to, and you have to get your backup catcher some reps because if they're ever really needed.
And is that his call?
But that's the coach. Well, I mean that's what as far as we know, it is possible behind the scenes that the actual player, But then even some of the matchups, like the way he's rotating in certain positions, it's just and nobody I don't think is saying that Joe Girardi sucks.
Right.
I think what people are saying is we had a coach that we thought sucked in Gabe Kapler, and we thought we were getting an upgrade, and we just haven't seen the upgrade.
Yeah, no, and it's, what do they call that? We're in a growing season. It's a change, and that's tough. I mean, I remember when what was it, McAdoo coach benched Manning, and it's like, was that his decision? Do you have to go speak to, like, the powers that be before you can make that decision?
I mean, Eagles fans know that more than anything right now in terms of the turmoil of, like, between the coach, the GM, and the owner. We're going through all this kind of, like, what's responsible? Who do you blame for Carson Wentz sucking last year?
Everyone points their fingers at everybody else.
Yeah. Well, and that's the funny thing, though, is that with all the rumors that come out about the Eagles, so last year the big thing was really the Holy Trinity being the GM of the Eagles, the head coach, and Carson Wentz, the quarterback. And it was like, okay, between those three, what percentage of blame are you assigning to whom? And it's funny because every article that quote leaks, where the media gets a locker room leak or whatever, they all made the GM look good. Every leak made the GM look good. Yeah. So it's just funny because everybody suspects
the guy at the top's not going to chop the guy at the top.
Yeah, right.
And I guess that's where ownership then has to step in?
Well, exactly. And then the big thing that's coming out now is that, apparently our owner sucks and all this stuff. Who knows, but it's...
everyone gets mad at everybody.
What do you think so far? Frog juice?
Yeah, it's opening up. Flavorful, but smooth. Like
it is smooth. It reminds me of. I think it reminds me of some of the other Saka sticks that we've had. Just in the way there's almost like a signature silkiness to the way.
I like that.
His cigars. The way the smoke in your mouth, it just it's
even when they're peppery, like it's smooth. Like there's never a bite. Even when
velvety,
there's like
velvety kind of smoke, and I like the size of it. I I'm still. I don't know if I have a preference on box press or not, but I think I'm leaning away from being a box press guy.
Away?
I think so.
Have you ever? So sometimes I get uncomfortable with the flat way. Like I've actually taken a couple puffs. With I don't know how you call that. Like the top of the right
I've
down?
done that not for any good reason. Like put it on its side, not for any good reason other than to just fuck around.
It opens it up.
It feels weird to me in my mouth though.
Yeah,
Like,
it does feel weird.
I don't know about you, but so like I'm always, ever since I got my driver's license, I'm good about driving with a seatbelt. But if you're driving around the corner, around the block, like going 20 miles an hour, maybe you don't put your seatbelt on, and like it just feels weird. I don't know why it just feels. That's how I feel when I smoke one of like a box press on its side, because it's a rectangle, and so when you go the other way, I'm like, oh, my lips don't close around it the same way. It just feels funny.
But like I have weird, like my lips, I feel like make a better seal. I feel like I get a better pull that way. I don't know why.
I don't know. It feels, but it's so funny because it changes the whole smoking experience.
It does.
When you do it in a very odd kind of way.
I wonder what in the blending process they say this is going to be a box press, this is going to be a soft box press.
Or is it pure marketing, like aesthetic?
I don't know.
I don't know either. And
who, we talked about who makes the decisions. Like, who makes that decision? Like, is that a blender's choice? Is that a roller's choice? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we're going to use these leaves.
Yeah.
And you're going to go, well, I think this Vitola, this size. It's very difficult because I would assume when you're coming out, maybe not with a special edition like this, but when you're coming out with Cigar X that you're going to make a bunch of, do you make different traditional sizes and go, ooh, the flavor profile really comes better in a Gordo than it does in a...
Right.
Well,
and I wonder.
Churchill.
What I wonder is, in the similar vein, is when people are having like a blending session and trying to figure out what blends well to come out with a new cigar. It's kind of like if you told me to try these 10 different whiskeys. Yeah. Anything after the first one, I'm not giving a true assessment because I'm tainted by that first one. It's the same thing with cigars, right? Like if you had 2 cigars in a row, that second one, it's not a true assessment.
Right.
So how do you really go through all these different blends in a session? And for me, if I'm not doing a side by side, then there's no way I'm going to remember enough the next day of what I thought yesterday. Mm-hmm.
Unless you like immerse yourself and you're like, all right, I'm going to create this cigar and I'm blending it and this is what I'm rolling and smoking every day for a month, until you really like eat it, breathe it, live it.
So, all right, my fact for today.
Okay. I miss Eric's facts.
This is a
fact
this
with
is
Eric.
an interesting one. It's weird. So Samsung, South Korean company.
Mm-hmm.
They started in 1938. That's when Samsung started. And it was a shop that sold vegetables and dried fish. Wow. That's what Samsung started.
Do you know what it's like? What it translates to?
I don't.
Fish. What did they sell? Fish and what?
It was dried fish and vegetables. So what happened was then, apparently, so it was after. The article I read just said after the war. I'm assuming they meant the Korean War. Basically, the country was kind of impoverished.
Sure.
So Samsung, the company, the CEO or founder or whatever, kind of took it upon himself to help rebuild the country. So he just started getting into things.
Wow.
And had some backing, from the government, supported what he was doing. They just couldn't, and I guess he was super entrepreneurial, smart, and knew how to lead. And so they kind of let him, as this private company, help lead the country's way back.
Wow.
And Samsung got into all these other things.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
When did they start their forte into electronics? You know what?
I think it was in the 60s or so that it said.
I think if you look at companies throughout, I think those changes are always kind of there. Yeah, the majority. Like, I remember reading about car companies, and they weren't, like BMW.
Yeah.
BMW was a Bavarian Motor Works. They did airplane engines. That's what the logo looked like. The logo is supposed to be a propeller going around a blue sky. Oh. That's what the cross... And you get the blue,
sense.
silver.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be a propeller spinning around the sky.
Makes sense. Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I wonder, how many? You go back enough, they were all mom and pops. I
guess so.
Point, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Until they took off and became whatever.
I'm going to turn my hoagie shop into a massive electronics company.
And do you ever, did they ever think, or they took advantage of the opportunity? Like that guy was like, listen, I know leadership. I may not know product X.
Well, that's the thing is that I've learned from being in business, right? If you kind of understand the economics of business, marketing, sales, leadership, how to build teams, that structure of the business, the product almost becomes interchangeable, which makes sense.
And I remember hearing that from people and being like, that is complete bullshit.
Or the big thing that they say is like, if you can sell anything.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And you know, you talked about branding. Before we got on, we were talking about Bert Kreischer coming out with a line of flip-flops.
Yeah.
And you had poetically said that, like, well, when you're a comedian and you're the brand, you have this, you can be like, well, me as the brand likes to eat bran flakes and wear hats and cologne and...
Yeah, and people just start to want to be you, and they want to start to follow you. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild. But it's the power of being famous. I mean, that's how you get that's how you get a whole family of Kardashians that are fucking rich as shit because
what's their skill set?
One of them did a home porn,
right?
And then that got the whole family famous enough so that they got money for being famous. And then when you have money and fame, you could fucking do anything.
And what is Rob sells like socks or something? That's like really? Come on, man.
I mean, talk about, when you go out with your boys or whatever, right? And if one of them is trying to mate with a female at the bar, and then maybe that female has a not so good looking friend, you might tell your friend, like, take one for the team. Like, go have sex with her to take one for the team. Talk about the ultimate take one for the team. I mean, this sister put herself naked in porn.
Just who was it?
Ray J was
Ray J?
Brandy's brother.
Like, where is he? You know what I mean? Like, he was like, I was in the video too. Like,
yeah,
I was also.
People weren't watching for him. they were.
Yeah, I totally wasn't watching for him. I was like, yo, it's Brandy's sister, Brandy's brother.
So, I want to get your thoughts on something. It's a hot topic right now as we come back from the pandemic. The idea of what they're calling vaccine passports. Have you heard that term?
I have, where it's like. It's proof, I guess, of your vaccination.
Yeah, the vaccine passport kind of thing. It's not a specific thing right now. It's like it's a phrase for a general concept of essentially showing your papers to get into a building.
Right.
It's an interesting concept. I'm just curious, you personally, first gut reaction. So Buffalo Bills have already said they're going to do full open stadium, have to prove you're vaccinated to get in. My guess is that policy is going to change 13 times before the NFL season starts. But let's go off of that premise. NFL is starting tomorrow. To get into a game or to get into a baseball game tomorrow, whatever, you have to show proof that you're vaccinated. I'm just curious what... I
mean, my gut reaction
it's kind of independent of your thoughts on getting the vaccine or not. It's really just
you have to. My wife and I were talking about this, not in this specific way, so let me answer that first. My gut reaction is like, man, didn't we kind of try that in other ways, and like, there's good and bad, you weigh it out, right?
Well, the argument is we still do it today. You have to get like your measles, mumps, rubella, all that to go to public school.
It's the exact same thing my wife and I were talking about. So we were really talking because my youngest son is already immune compromised. He has celiac, and we've actually noticed from moving out here, he's clearing his throat a lot. Like, I'm like, man, he's going to be prone to more allergens and just things we probably were less aware of when we lived, in Atco, just different.
Sure.
So, like, we're trying to weigh it out. Does it make more sense to, like, do we fear getting him vaccinated and introducing that into his immune system? Or do we fear him, God forbid, getting a virus, compromising his immune system and then ramping up whatever it does? So we said, like, how could they make you, force you? But then she reminded me, she's like, you have to, to go to preschool. He had to get all those things, which those could have been the three things that, blew up the whole immune system, and his celiac came to the forefront. So I do know we have to do something because, we're at a place where the country's shutting down and we want to, we're a year plus into this. And, so I guess my gut reaction is like, I get it, but I don't know how I feel about understanding it. Like, I understand it. I understand the premise. I don't know how I feel about living in like, show me your papers.
Yeah, that's
living in that world.
Yeah.
But I also don't like living in the world of uncertainty and masks and fear. Like, that's not a good world either.
Right. So it's interesting because I always try to make sure I draw a line, because I think that it's something, you bring up a good point when you say, like, I also don't like the masks and this and that. So if the trade-off is having to get the vaccine, then maybe that like makes me lean towards that more than I otherwise would. The challenge I have with that, though, is the decision isn't between masks or forced vaccination.
Right.
One option could be do nothing. Like, that's an option.
Yeah.
Like, so like I guess that's what's interesting about this. So I thought about this earlier today, and sort of I'll tell you my opinion on it after I take another puff.
Mm-hmm. I was trying to do a little retrohale on this because, like, I am getting a hint of spice, but also some really good, like, sweetness off of it. It actually, I almost wish I didn't read that it came from the Mi Quierda factory, because in my head, that's what I'm, like, trying to taste.
Yeah.
So I'm getting that, which I really enjoy.
Yeah,
But
I like this a lot. I don't know what it is yet, like what I'm tasting.
It's
yet.
whatever it is, the blend works.
It's working. I'll try to think more about it over the next
tasty.
few minutes. But I'll tell you my thought.
Yeah.
Here, so I think where I landed in my head was, if a private business wants to, force you to prove that you've had your vaccine to come in, I think in the name of like capitalism and free market, I think that should be okay. Like I think I'll use a sandwich shop as an example.
Right.
If somebody owns a sandwich shop and they want to say you have to be vaccinated to come in, a portion of the population is going to love that, and there's going to be a portion of the population that simply won't get vaccinated. They don't love your sandwiches enough. They're not going to get vaccinated just to come get your sandwiches, and you're going to alienate them. But that's your decision, and if you make the wrong call and you alienate too many people and you go out of business, like that's on you. And
your business will reflect it.
Your business will reflect it. Maybe you'll go out, but like that's fine, and that's commerce. I don't love that. That's the world we're in right now. That like some people might lose their business because of irrational people not wanting to shop there. But
especially someone who's getting into the business.
But yeah, it makes me nervous. Scary. But that said, I don't think the same should apply to government buildings in this case, as an example, and here's why. Let's say you have asthma and I don't. Mm-hmm. And so, essentially, what my understanding is with the virus, if you're in your 30s, you're healthy, your 30s or younger, you're otherwise really, really healthy, COVID is of almost no danger to you, is my understanding. If you have asthma, like it's a danger to you.
Sure.
So this is where I struggle, is that, all right, you and I both want to go to this government building. There's a scenario where, like, I don't get a vaccine. I don't wear a mask because I'm not worried. You are worried, so you get the vaccine and you still wear a mask. And the vaccine, we've seen, like, it's been proven like that will protect you.
Right.
So in that scenario, we're both protected. We're both fine.
Right.
So I don't understand the whole somebody saying to me, put this in your arm. And to be clear, I am vaccinated.
Right.
Like, I'm not against the vaccine. It's just, I don't know how I would feel about, as I go to walk into a building, metaphorically sort of, somebody handing me a syringe and saying,
without this,
go ahead, put this in your arm, and then I'll let you in. Because you have asthma and you're already vaccinated, so you're protected. So, like, who am I protecting with this shot? You're forcing me to take the shot. Who am I protecting?
Right. Yeah.
That's where I get it. And then, so I use the example of the government building in that scenario, because then what it does is it puts the onus on you, the person with asthma. Really, the person who has the issue. It's unfortunate you were born with asthma, but why did your issue just become my issue?
Well, and we have to explain that to my 6-year-old. I mean, we had to do it when he was 4 turning 5, when he got celiac. Like, we had to say, like, bud, like, you're going to have... The
world's not going to cater to you.
You're going to have a substitute teacher one day. There's going to be someone who doesn't know you. And it's so sad, like, when people that don't know offer him things. And we're just talking about celiac. Like, yeah, he's going to have inflammation and it's going to hurt, but it's not like a peanutology where he's not going to die on the spot.
Right. That's
not
good.
Yeah. It is. So if he's going to have an autoimmune issue, this is a good one to have. But it's his response. It's actually my wife's and I responsibility as his parents to show him that it's his responsibility.
Right.
And bud, if you don't know what's in it, you can't eat it.
Yeah.
Or you make the decision to eat it, and then you have to suffer whatever consequences that is. But, like, no matter how sad you get, or if you stomp and hold your breath and kick at a birthday party, you still can't eat the cake.
Yeah.
So we make sure we have, like, when we're going to a birthday party, we have Hershey bars. He loves Hershey bars. They're gluten-free. No issue.
It's a good point, right?
But if I don't teach him at 6 or 5 that it's his responsibility, when does it become his responsibility? Because there have been times, and the principals called us, the nurse, he had a substitute, they offered him pretzels or whatever it was, and he had to say, no, I can't eat that.
Yeah.
But
in today's culture, though, now the school's all afraid they were going to get in trouble for telling your kid no, so they had to call you and let you know.
Oh, right. Or, like, the subs, like, oh, whatever. But it's not, yes, should everyone be considerate? But it's not their response. those two things are not they're two different things.
Yeah.
He has to be responsible for his safety, knowing that.
Right. Now,
and that's a good, like, if I take care of me and you take care of you, there's a lot less collective issues.
well, and the thing is, right, so in the absence of a vaccine, we're told everybody has to wear a mask because it protects all of us. And it's like, okay, even though it's the minority of people that are actually affected, we're talking about wearing a mask.
Right.
Well, now we're talking about injecting yourself with something. So we're saying in order to participate in society, you have to go put this in your body because that guy over there who you don't know has asthma? Like, that just doesn't sound right. But, and real quick, so then, now what I said is I said, like, these small private businesses, though I think it's okay because it's free commerce. And I said government buildings, I don't think it's okay. We shouldn't say, like, for you to come pick up your unemployment check, well, it's direct deposit now, but in theory, for you to come pick up your employment check, like to come in this government building and do your business, you have to get a vaccine because that doesn't check out with me. Now, stadiums, they're privately owned. Where I draw the line is I would say something like a stadium or a sports team, it's so big and ubiquitous, I'm going to lump that in with the government, right or wrong, right? This is just opinions. And so I feel like for a stadium to do that, it should not be okay. It should not be allowed.
And I get it. And I agree. I think we both brought up different reasonings why, but I'm just afraid to open that can of worms to be like, these are certain rules in order to, like you said, partake in society. Mm-hmm. Because then that could easily turn into some really it has in the past, and it could lead into some very dangerous territory.
It could.
That I'm, that
I
I'm
just
not.
got an ant on me.
They're making their way. Hey man, you smoke in the smoke shack, you're gonna get a couple ants on you, bud. That's how it works.
Well, I know. Well, next time I see an ant though, I'm gonna blow smoke on it. See how he likes frog juice.
I could tell you what, man. I'm really digging the frog juice, and I don't know if it's sometimes I have an exclusive stick, and I'm like, all right, I experienced that. But this is one that I'm like, there's some silkiness to it. There's some smoothness to it. I don't know if you'll agree with this statement. It smokes like a Connecticut. Like it's got a real easy, light smokability, but then there's the flavors of the darker wrapper.
Yeah, I don't know, because how we've talked a lot though too about how sometimes there's darker wrappers. Like they are more mellow a lot of times. So I don't know that I know what you're saying when you say it smokes like a Connecticut, but we've both had spicy, strong Connecticut.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if that's how I look at it, but I definitely look at it as smooth smoke. Definitely reminds me a little bit of the "Now Leave Me the Hell Alone."
Oh yeah.
It reminds me of the other Saka sticks that we've had before for sure.
It would be a cool, I think, intro to a darker stick for someone if it were more, if you could find it more. If they didn't make. I think 25. There were 250 bundles of 10.
That's it.
In the initial run.
Wow.
I'm sure it'll come back though. It did well.
When you were I wouldn't be surprised if it becomes a national release at some point. If you when you were really big into Olympic weightlifting, did you have a coach when you were doing that?
Yep.
What was your goal? Were you trying to compete at the time, or just trying to get better? Or?
To be honest, no. I didn't want to compete at all. But once I walked in 06 or 07 and I started training, the coach was like, you should really do a couple meets and just kind of see where you're at.
Yeah.
He's like, you're at that place where you're doing this.
Yeah.
You're here 7 days a week, twice on Saturday. You should come back,
you went twice on Saturday?
Yeah.
To the gym?
Yeah.
What?
AM and a PM session. Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
It was insane.
I can't do Olympic lifting that much because it's too taxing on the joints, and my mobility's bad, so catching in the front rack really jacks up. But anyway, the reason why I brought that up is because I was curious, did the coach or you and any of your other athletic endeavors ever talk about glute activation, when you're squatting or coming out of the hole?
The thrusting up.
Well, really, just activating that muscle. So I've been going to physical therapy for that nerve issue in my leg, and they've kind of identified the nerve issue coming more from a muscle imbalance, and so they're doing a lot of single-sided movements, right? So one-legged squats and all these the clamshells and all these different exercises that activate one side versus the other. And so it's been putting my mind there in that place of instead of thinking when you normally squat with a bar on your back, it's you're recruiting every muscle in your body, right? So you're keeping the whole body tight and you're recruiting every muscle to lift. Well, what I've learned is that when you do that and you don't ever work like single muscles, since you're always activating every muscle, your strong muscles are just naturally compensating for your weak muscles
100%.
and they're reinforcing the imbalance. And so I learned a new, and so through that, like again, I'm going for like a nerve issue, but I've been applying it to my lifting and I'm seeing my deadlift, which I kind of predicted as soon as like after my first PT session, I was like, this is going to help my squat and my deadlift 100%.
Oh yeah.
And at first, for the first week or so, it actually was getting in my head because I started to get more in tune with like each butt cheek firing
Balance.
differently.
Yeah.
And then I realized when I'm squatting, I'm like, oh my god, that left butt cheek's it's not awake. Like it's not doing anything. I'm like, and then I start like jokingly, I'm like hitting it. I'm like, wake up, butt cheek. And so I learned a phrase. I was talking to a different physical therapist today. He's like, yeah, it's called amnesia butt. He's like, it's a real thing. Like
It doesn't have to. It didn't
like,
have to incorporate anything.
Yeah.
It's a strong side.
And so what he said, and so what like through the conversation, and what I kind of realized on my own now, which I wish I realized 20 years ago, was like just doing some like single leg glute bridges and some things like that as part of your warm-up, you'll squat more.
Right,
Like 10 minutes later, you'll squat more because you've got both butt cheeks awake. And you're going to do it in less pain. Because
one side's
dude,
not.
it's amazing. But I thought like, when the PT said the phrase amnesia butt to me today, I was like, dude, that makes so much sense. And it's also just a funny phrase.
That
I have
should be a cigar we
butt.
come out with, amnesia butt.
Amnesia butt.
So I tried to do some single leg stuff, and I wasn't real good at it. It was kind of just coming in that like terminology. I'm sure training, some coaches always did it, but single leg squats for like shot putters have become huge just because like I was so right leg intensive sweeping that leg in.
Golfers, you're always baseball, but you're swinging in one direction.
I really am wanting to check this PT out because I am sure I am just chock full of them.
Dude, I asked the guy too. I was like, because I've only ever done PT off of like a referral from an ortho. Like an ortho gives you like a PT prescription. You go, and I asked him, I was like, dude, can anybody just kind of come? And he was like, yeah. He's like, obviously check your insurance if they have referrals or not. Which they probably don't. Most insurance.
I don't. I have actually pretty decent like state insurance, so I really
so
do want to check it out.
You probably don't need referrals. You should do like he'll do an assessment. And
I've been doing some killer stretches. Was I telling you like my hips from moving? Like my hips were just
you were. That's
like,
what made me ask him about it. Like, hey, can my friend just come?
I literally walking out to the cigar shack. You step in a uneven thing and like I got 7,000 pounds on my back. Just boom.
I think I'm 3 weeks in the PT now, and so much of that, like even I mean, for years I'd get off the couch like an old man and those kind of things. Like it's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you, in like 3 weeks. It's just my body feels more balanced. My numbers, like on the squat, are going up.
No, I have to, especially because
before you get back into lifting so much, like, and you just keep reinforcing these imbalances, and then other things too, like doing like bird dog, like that. It's part of like a core activation where you're on all fours and you lift like the opposite foot and leg at the same time and like switch and like just kind of hold it for 10 seconds. By having that, like having your body. Like essentially hold that position like that. I've read also this is better for your core than like sit-ups.
Oh yeah.
Because what I've read essentially is like core stability is about holding yourself in one position.
Core stability is different than doing crunches, than having abs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
But I really have to attribute a lot of my stretching in my later years to my buddy Mike, who got me into powerlifting, and he came into my life at a time where I was doing no activity. I was a dad. I was 80, 100 pounds overweight.
You did some activity to become a dad.
Well, but 13 seconds I don't think would be a workout. Like
3 times.
my Apple Watch is like, it looks like you may be doing some activity. But even doing like band work before benching, like I never would have done that.
Dude, and you can lift more.
Tons more. Like
in the same session. Like you don't even have to get stronger. Like just
so I remember thinking, I was like, dude, so he would have me, before I even touched the bar by itself, I would do 100 reps of a lat pull down.
100 reps?
Yeah.
Wow.
So like between 7 to 10.
And sort of old school light, or like kind of, I'll call it like, it's not necessarily old school thinking, but like the mindset of not doing those kind of things would be like, that's wasting reps. Like I don't want to do 100 of those. Like I'm
And
gonna be too tired to lift heavy.
That's what I thought.
Right.
So he would have me do shrugs, band pull-aparts, and lat pull-downs.
Before benching.
Before benching. But like it started.
It's all about like
just getting those things warm.
Yeah.
And then what we would do is like the days I was going to max. Right. The days before I was going to max, maybe I'd only do 3 to 5 sets of it. And then so they're still activated, but I'm not tired.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh wow, 335 feels a hell of a lot easier. When your body's primed, just like you said, the amnesia, but your chest, your lats, everything that's going to stabilize is like awake and ready to take
and
that.
Because what a lot of people don't realize when they're benching, like you do recruit your lats. You do like
legs. There's everything.
Yeah,
there's
like
everything.
your core, like a lot of people just look at bench obviously as a chest exercise with the triceps being secondary. Rightfully so, because that's what we're taught in ninth grade health class.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But by a guy who's like 30 to 80 pounds overweight.
Exactly.
Who hasn't lifted a weight since 1970.
And they'll tell you back then when you're learning about lifting in freshman year of high school or whatever, from those gym teachers, they'll tell you from the textbook, stretching is important. Make sure you stretch before, but
they never
know why. And frankly, stretching isn't necessarily what's important. Using the muscle,
warming up
in the way that you're going to be using the muscle, but then when they teach you that bench is a chest exercise, dude, my chest warm up, I'd be like, okay, I'm supposed to stretch. Cool. So I would just stretch my chest. Well, no, if you want that extra 10 pounds on the bar, you're going to have to get those lats into it. So go ahead, wake those lats up before you work out.
One of the best things he ever did is he's like, what exercises are you not proficient? I always said, well, I have really long arms, so benching, I'll never be able to bench over 350 or anything like that. And he's like, no, it's ridiculous that you say that. And he's like, well, how are your push-ups? I'm like, oh, terrible. He's like, oh, okay, cool. So he's like, every time you come over, in your session, you're going to do 100 reps of push-ups.
Yeah.
He's like, I want you to be able to knock out push-ups while you talk to me. And I was like, this guy's out of his mind. But you go back to, do you have a coach? That's why coaching, even at the elite level, is important.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're going to walk in and do the things we enjoy.
Yeah.
Right. So it's doing the things that make you uncomfortable that are going to lead to growth. And it's the conversation I have with my kids, and I do my best to lead by example. I got to get better at it.
Yeah, we all do.
Getting uncomfortable, and it's something I think we don't do enough to our kids in general. We don't want their life to be uncomfortable at all.
Right.
But then how do you learn to deal with discomfort if you've never experienced what discomfort is? And learning about just being okay, I'm lost, or I got into a car accident, something happened out of the norm. How do I just breathe and stay in the moment?
I can tell you how modern culture deals with something difficult. Put it on somebody else, right? Mm-hmm. I don't want to be inconvenienced, so I'm going to force you to get a shot.
You're right. You're right.
What does that have to do?
Wow, we really just full circle that. I like that.
That's right, because we live in a society where kids aren't challenged. They aren't uncomfortable from a young age. They are.
Forget even just kids. I think our generation sucks at accountability. Accountability.
Absolutely.
We were that first generation of
Well, dude, I technically fall within the millennials. You are closer, but I'm not sure.
Am I an Xer? No, I don't know what I am. I don't know what the hell I am.
You would be a Z. Gen Z.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, but it's, or no, is it Gen X? I think it is Gen X. Yeah, I think Gen X was right before us. I think Gen Z and millennials might be the same thing.
And they're or it's over. There's an overlap somewhere.
So you would, but it's also possible that you are actually a millennial. You're right on the border, but so for us,
it's really where not the year you're born. It's what era did you grow up with,
Yeah, and so they have to apply a rule to it. You have to just put a year, born.
Right, yeah,
but it is really more how you grew up, right?
Yeah.
For example, even a kid growing up today on a farm in really rural Indiana, they're not going to have the traits of a millennial the same way that somebody born to somebody rich is going to have today.
And it's kind of one of the things that really drew us to kind of moving somewhere like this, where we are a little bit more spread out. There's more work to be done collectively as a family, where it's not just all right, you guys can just sit on the couch on your tablets. We're gonna
your kids are gonna have real chores now,
and not here's $5 for Pokemon cards chores. Chores just to make the place function,
make the homestead go. Dude, that's why I always say even with my house and my property being a lot smaller than this, but at almost a half an acre between the inside and the outside, I feel like when I'm alone. So I kind of use that similar phrase in my head. I'm kind of working the land. I'm you got to do this, you got to do this. If you don't take care of this, these plants will die. Like, that little stuff. But yeah, with almost 5 acres, you're going to have to do real maintenance, whether it's taming some of that brush back so it doesn't take
I even
over
told them,
your
I was
whole
like,
yard.
guys, you don't realize like how helpful it is if you just collect the sticks before I jump on the mower, and I don't have to jump off 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And then like I told my son, who's going to be 10, I'm like, there's going to be days where I need you to drive the tractor and do that in the area where it's easy to mow and there's not stuff in the way.
And if you get the oldest on board, do the other two just kind of follow him?
Yeah, and to be honest, they're like, I want to capitalize on the newness and the novelty of, we get to go help and work.
Well,
he had no property in Acco, so like mowing the lawn took an hour max.
Well, and it's a unique opportunity too. Like you said, like you try to get better at it with like teaching kids like the accountability, getting out of your comfort zone.
Not even teaching, showing them that
showing
I do
them,
it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and so now that you have this new thing and so much work to do here, it's a great teaching moment for like the concept of pride of ownership.
And just if we all take care of it, like we said, you take care of what you're supposed to take care of, mom and dad take care of what they're supposed to. Like you're not just going to enjoy the pool. Yes, it's going to be enjoyable. But guys, there has to be like a lot of, we've gotten so much better since we moved here. Like guys, the house is a little bit more spread out. So you can't leave your bike a quarter of a mile away from the house. It's about to rain. I need you to go. I know you got to put your shoes on and grab a flashlight and go get your bike.
Yeah. Well, and like a big thing might be, depending, like obviously it's what parents want to do. Like for me, right, for my pool, I don't have kids to help or a wife or whatever to help. So like when I'm gonna have friends over, like I don't have I have to vacuum the pool before I can enjoy the pool. And so like I think that's a big thing with kids too, and like teaching them that there's it's not like Disney where there's a whole city underneath ground that just makes things happen. Like no, look, we all gotta go vacuum the pool.
And they're excited for their friends to come over, but that's going to be the trade-off.
Yeah.
Before the barbecue, you're going to need to come help us. Like there's like 2 hours of prep.
Your friends coming over in 10 minutes. You should have started vacuuming an hour ago.
or your buddy can also help.
Yeah.
Like because guess what? We're going to feed them and they're going to enjoy our stuff. So guess what?
Yeah.
They can help out too.
Yeah.
But no, we're excited, and I think the people that I'm hoping the friends they make that live out here are of a similar ilk because they kind of are living out here too.
You would think so, yeah.
But it is so different. Like I was joking with you.
How do they like the new school?
They love it.
Yeah.
They love it. My son's a little bummed. Like the younger kids are making Holden's. Not that he's bummed. He's just like, I spent all these years, 9 years making friends. Like, he's like, now I got to put 9 more in. But it's just like a little fun. Relax. But he already is like, no, my teachers are nice. Like they also, the benefit of coming now is they haven't been to physical school in over a year because they were on remote. So just the fact that they get to go shortened days.
Is this a new system that they're in, 100% in school?
In person.
100%
5 days
in person.
a week. You can have the option to remote. But they're like itching. And
does a bus come pick them up right out front of the house?
Our house is the bus stop.
That's nice.
But like it's funny, like
are they on the bus for an hour and a half?
No, Holden's like a 20-minute ride, which is funny. The school's only.
But they don't have to like go pick up all these other kids because everybody's so rural.
Right. So he's I think the second to last he's the second person picked up in the morning, and he's the second to last on. So he's like on for like 20 minutes. But he actually said he's like it's a nice 25-minute ride just to like decompress.
I used to love the bus.
Yeah. It's tough when, but I'm like, guys, you don't know. You don't have to walk to a bus stop. I was like, this is a pretty sweet system. You can see the bus coming down the road. Go get your stuff and go. It's nice.
You set up like try to set up like a baby cam on the corner of your street here, right? So they can see when the bus turns on the corner.
We're actually high enough where you can see it turn off
from upstairs.
40, yeah.
That's funny.
So I'm like, guys, they're coming. Like the bus came early today, and he like sprinted. He actually forgot his little snack.
Oh, no.
And so I noticed it, and I drove it out. I was there before he even got there, and one of the custodians like brought it. But what my wife and I have noticed, or she grew up around here, so it's different. Like I'm so used to, how I have my. What's that?
Did she really grow up like here, like out this road?
Elmer, like maybe like 15, 20 minutes down the road. Yeah, so she's used to this area, or like the pace is just slower.
Yeah.
Like a woman, a neighbor walking her dog, literally, we spoke for like 20 minutes. There was no like, hey, I got to get back and do this. Like, it's a slower pace. Even the school, like, no one was like, sign in, I need your ID. Who are you? What are you here to do? They were still, cautious in this, but like my son left his thing. Like, all right, we'll make sure he gets it. Like, no worries. Do you need to talk to anybody? It just wasn't like, it didn't feel like business. It felt like they were actually talking to like a person. Like, I felt like I was talking to a person.
you'll know you're really rural, right? Like when you're talking to somebody, and then you're like, hey, like, how do you get to so and so? If they use the phrase, up the road a piece, up the road a piece. But we were joking that one time, like when I was a kid, we went out to South Dakota with my parents, like on vacation, and we were out there for like 10 days for Sturgis Bike Week.
Oh, nice.
It was just my parents, myself, and a couple that my parents were friends with. So obviously we're eating 3 meals a day out, like at restaurants or whatever, on vacation, and that's what we started. That became like the inside joke. We're like, every time, doesn't matter what we ask, where we're going, it's down the road a piece.
And that could be 17 miles.
That could
be 17 seconds. It doesn't matter.
You're going to go down the road a piece until you see such and such. And then you're going to go left.
I joked with my wife because for some reason I pick up either on dialects or phrases or whatever. And I'm like, since we moved here, I was like, the phrase "use guys" have come out of my wife's mouth. Like, so use guys need to get ready for. I was like, you never said that, Atco. Like, just joking.
Yeah.
Like, you know, but it is. It's just it's slower.
So for Allie works from home, and being just more remote, even though like life hasn't changed. Like you still need to, like if you got to go to the doctor, you got to go drive for the doctor. Like that's all the same, but being a little bit more remote, like, or is she getting like stir crazy at all? Like, I haven't been in my car, I haven't taken a shower in 4 days, that kind of thing.
She's good. I'll tell her. I'll remind her if it's been 4 days for a shower, and she'll remind me too. Yeah. But the thing for me, it's like the home improvement stuff. Like those stores are a little further away. Like Tractor Supply Company's close. Walmart's not far. But like Home Depot, I'm like, man, it's almost the same distance for me to drive back to Berlin.
And you and I are the type of guys who aren't afraid to get our hands dirty with a home project, but we're not like proficient woodworkers. Exactly. There's no such thing as a project that's not more than a trip to Home Depot because you're going to forget something or you got the wrong size.
But God bless camera phones, because literally I will take pictures of every like angle of something and I'm like, look, the sink has these 3 connections. I don't know what they did before, but there's a connector here, And then the guy's like, all right, you need a shark bite of this or that. And I'm like, well, listen, I'm going to buy more than I need because I know I'm going to mess this one up. Like, this is going to be my test one. I know this is going to be trash.
Yeah.
It's all good. They're only $7. I'm going to take 3 of these.
So what's cool is in the Home Depot app, like let's say you have like a screw and you're like, I need more of this screw. There's a feature in the Home Depot app where you can scan the screw and it'll tell you what size it is. Yeah, it'll tell you what size it is, what aisle it's going to be in, and all that at Home Depot. I know the guy who made the company that does that for Home Depot.
No way.
And what's interesting is it's like magic in that, and I tried it with the Home Depot app. Like,
how do they know what a size screw?
Well, I'm going to tell you. And I've tried it where I've gotten the Home Depot app and go up to like an electrical outlet in your house and just like kind of scan it, and then it'll be like, oh, electrical outlet, like here's what you need, blah blah blah. So there is like it's photo recognition that it'll spit something out, but it's not super accurate. So there's a farm of people in Canada that get the result before the app gives you the result, and they manually determine if that's the right result, and then they push it to you.
No way.
Yep. And I know the company and everything that's behind it.
Is that your buddy who's like...
No, this is a complete random, like when I was in the software world kind of thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Kind of neat, right?
That's very cool. But I will say, like, I'm much handier. If this were 30 years ago, I'd need everything done. But the fact that I can YouTube something, or I can Google
it's like
apart.
asking somebody if they're a good cook. Like nowadays, if you can follow a recipe, you're a good cook.
Right.
It's the same thing. Like you can build a house off of YouTube if you can follow directions.
Right, and if you have endless material workers, like I troubleshoot. Already, the guy when we moved in, he was like, "Hey, the ice maker works, but it doesn't shoot any of the ice out." Just little things that you can just get used to. I was like, "Dude, we're not going to just stick our hands in here." So literally, all I had to do was take the unit apart and defrost it. It was just frozen on the inside. There was a block of ice, right?
Yeah.
But like, either he didn't have the time or luxury or whatever. But I was like, I'm going to do this.
These are the interesting little things you learn by owning a house. Like one time, water just started pouring out of the bottom of my fridge, and I was like, fuck,
This isn't good.
No, yeah, you get worried that, like, yeah, obviously there's a water line that goes for the ice maker. Like, did that burst?
Sure.
Like, what's going on? Come to find out, a lot of the fridges now, like, they're which makes sense, or the freezers are self-defrosting. Obviously, when I was a kid, my mom used to have to get a hairdryer and defrost the freezer. We don't have to do that anymore.
Right.
We never thought about why.
Right.
They're self-defrosting. So what'll happen is the coils in it that will get the ice built up on them periodically on some cycle it turns himself warm, so it melts the ice off of them. It goes through a drain and
Did that hose get disconnected?
No, so it winds up going through a drain into like a little bucket that sits under your fridge, and then I guess by the time it needs to
do it again,
it has evaporates. Well, what happened was the little drain hole in the freezer where the melted water goes out through froze up, and so what was actually happening was inside my freezer, the water was melting, going down, not coming out the drain, and just running along the bottom of the freezer and coming out the front of the door.
But it looks like
water's just coming out of the bottom of your freezer because it's a side by side, so it's like ground level where the water's coming out of the freezer. Mm-hmm. All I had to do was pull the freezer out, take a hair dryer on that, or I didn't. What I didn't know at the time is I actually didn't even have to pull the freezer out. Like I just had to go to that little hole and with a hairdryer and open the hole so water could drain out, and you're fine. There's weird little things you learn by owning a house.
And then you start to learn about the shortcuts other people took before you got there. Mm-hmm. Like my basement is a bar, so they used to have a kind of a slop sink where they could wash the dishes, and it kind of backs up to the little half bathroom they have down there. But they never installed the water shutoff valve. Like you got to go to the main to do that. Oh. So I'm messing with one of the shark bites there, and it comes loose. So I just got water pouring out, and it's the warm water. So I'm looking. There's no shutoff. So thank God I got the shark valve. But I mean, there were gallons of water in there. Like I had to sop it up, and I was scared. I was like, oh, this is like new, and you're just scared. But you figure it out. But like you said, like my brother was like, how do you know? And I was like, you own your first house and you start to figure it out. Yeah. And I knew nothing about, I knew the very basics of plumbing and electrical.
You own your first kid and you figure it out.
Well, and then guess what? When you have the second kid, their personality is completely different. So it doesn't matter what you've learned with kid A, kid B is the same tricks that worked on that don't work.
No, that's
when they say there's no manual for parenting. At least with electrical, it's always going to be.
It's true. However many amps equal, however many, whatever. That's a good point.
I will have to say we had an electrician out today, and the wealth of knowledge, like, when you talk to someone that's their specialty and they just do it. The guy's like, well, I could tell by looking at this circuit, like they wouldn't do that. I was like, see, that's why I have you here, because they just look like circuits to me.
Yeah.
Obviously I know the ones that are doubled up or the ones that are split, like I get that. But like when they look at that and like it just makes sense to them, I'm like, man, it's just impressive. Like, but just like we all have strengths and weaknesses and talents. Yeah. But that's why, like, when my wife got home today, she took her car for an oil change, and I'm working remotely. And the electrician had left. I was like, it's just nice to pay a person who knows exactly what they're doing. It would have taken me forever to figure out what was on what circuit, because we have a main panel, sub panels. They all run to different things. The pool's on its own panel. Like, I was like, I don't know.
And it's electric, right? So you always have in the back of your mind, like, well, if I mess it up, best case scenario, I burn my house down. Worst case scenario, I electrocute myself. Yeah, I'll get an expert.
Yeah, it's sometimes there's things, especially as we're getting on in years, I'm like, there are things that are worth paying for. Like, there are things I could figure out.
Electric and plumbing.
Electric and plumbing, it's worth having someone. Because I when we have our plumber come out, I'm going to be like, how hard is it to put an emergency shutoff valve where I already know there's an issue?
Yeah, right?
Just because, like, I could see it happening to, like, my son or someone reaching under the sink. And you pull it out.
When you talk about, like, Dom was asking you, like, how do you know this stuff? And you said you figured out. That's one, right, a piece of advice I would give to every new homeowner is before you ever have an issue, learn where your water shutoff valve is. Because that happened to me. Like, I had water shooting into my kitchen.
I remember that. It was like a party, right? You were about to have a party.
It was a thing. And I had to, I didn't know what to do. In a panic, I called the water company. I was like, you guys got to come out to the street and, like turn it off at the street. And they were like, okay, but also you can go turn it off at your house.
We can do that. We'll be there in like 4 hours.
I was like, oh yeah, good point.
But all that stuff, it's good to know where your electric shutoff is. God forbid there's anything.
Yeah, 100%, man. So, man, this was fun. Let's go some final thoughts on the stick.
I mean, really enjoyable flavors. I would say it's a steady flavor. I'm not getting like peaks and valleys of different flavors, but
and I guess
enjoyable.
Since people can't buy it anyway, there's no sense in talking about if it's an everyday steak or what I mean. Right. But the answer is yes, I would smoke it again, 100%.
Oh yeah.
Like this, we've smoked a few Saka sticks together. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to remember what was the last one that we smoked.
On Stolen Valor.
No, wasn't there?
The anniversary, the famous smoke shop anniversary stick.
Wasn't there another one more recent? Wasn't there a stick we just had last time we shot at my house that we were like, not my favorite?
What was it? We'll have to go back.
I thought it was Dunbarton, maybe not. But I would put this up there with like, trying to think, like, now we've had a bunch of Saka sticks, right? So I'm like trying to rank them. And
I like how you said the Now Leave Me the Hell Alone. There's some of that in here. There's some of the Mi Quierda.
There's some of the Mi Quierda, but this is I would say like a little bit more mild than the Mi Quierda.
Very approachable. So I mean, my final thought was,
I love this one.
If I do too, I really enjoyed it. I was gonna say, and that's what's the bummer about getting an anniversary stick or a stick that's hard to get. I do hope that they'll come out with a more of a release. But I think they will. I did notice they're coming back out, even though it's going to be a more limited release, because Dunbarton also does the Red Meat Lovers, which I'm going to try to get us a couple of those.
Awesome.
But my recommendation would be, if you're a cigar guy and you like flavors and you like kind of savory, if you can find it, because I don't think they were crazy. I think they were like $12 a stick. Obviously, when you get them on the secondary market, I think they were like $12 or $13 a stick when pre-production. So, the internet's easy. If you want to look for trade or raffle sites, they're out there. And if you can find it, I would definitely pick it up. I know I'm gonna put a couple messages out tonight and say, anyone have any frog juices for trade or for I've been loving getting into the trade game, and without the trade game, I never would have been able to get this.
100%, man. Agree with everything you said. Love this stick. This is like, I don't even want to call it a new one of my favorites because I don't know if I'll ever get it again. So I'm not even going to hang my hat there, but I fucking love it.
And it's one of those sticks where I'm like, there are things where I try to find, and if I can get them in pairs, I'm like, I want to smoke this with you on an episode, because it may be the only time we ever smoke a frog juice, but
it's
we haven't recorded.
It's
and I got to smoke.
This is why we started. One of the reasons why we started the podcast, right? We're doing this anyway. Even if nobody else watches, let's hit record, and like our great grandkids will see it one day.
Or it's a video journal of the cigars we've smoked, along the way.
Exactly. Yep.
So awesome time as always, buddy.
As always, long ashes.
Stay smoky, everybody.
Thanks for checking out the Cedar Culture Podcast. If you'd like that episode, go ahead, tap like, follow, subscribe, whatever it is on your platform of choice. And if you are on YouTube, hit that bell as well to be notified of new episodes. It really helps us out. We appreciate it.
And then don't forget to head over to Instagram and Facebook and follow us as well.
Do it.
Do it.